Well, hi there, folks. Welcome to the program. This, of course, is Stinchfield, the podcast. I want to jump right into a personal story that I had that proves that our healthcare system is so screwed up. If you're an everyday Joe, and I would consider myself a pretty successful guy, and I still fall into the everyday Joe category, and you don't have access to insider ability for healthcare, if you don't have access to that gold standard that only comes with knowing who's at the top, you're screwed in this country when it comes to healthcare. So some of you have been listening to me on this podcast, of course, the radio show. You know I've been dealing with a back problem that's insane. I pulled a muscle in the back by my shoulder blade. It goes down through my chest, into my arm, where my arm is almost numb. And then, of course, it gets into my wrist here, all of this, right? It's literally crazy and so painful. I've never had to deal with chronic pain where the pain just doesn't go away. It's debilitating. It puts you in a bad mood. Ask my crew. They'll tell you I'm grumpy lately because of this just constant stabbing, throbbing, tingling, numb. These two fingers right here are totally numb, by the way. I think it's nerve damage, but I don't know because I can't get health care. So let me give you an example. I wake up 2 nights in a row. The pain is so bad, unbearable. It continues through me driving my son to school. And I said, you know what? I got to go to the emergency room. And I'm not one to just go to the emergency room willy-nilly. I don't really call in sick. I think I've called in sick once, maybe in 3 years for the radio. I don't think I've ever called in sick for the Real America's Voice show. So it was something for me to go to the emergency room. And I go in, I tell the doctor or the nurse first, hey, I have unbearable pain. And I'm a pretty tough guy, but this is too much. I need something to help me. Now, I had already been to a care now, like an urgent care clinic. They would not prescribe me pain medications. They prescribed me a steroid and a muscle relaxer. Didn't do anything. So now I'm 3 days later, I'm at the emergency room. They said, we're going to give you a muscle relaxer. In fact, the same muscle relaxer that I'm already taking that isn't doing anything. I said, listen to me, I need pain medication. I understand that that's going to sound fishy in the emergency room, but I'm dying here. So they give me a shot. They give me an oxycodone. And here's the real kicker. Hydrocodone, my body doesn't process. I recommend everyone doing this. I had DNA work done to see what my body processes, food types, drug types, all this thing. And it comes back, hydrocodone, my body doesn't process it, which explains a lot. When I was dealing with all kinds of issues, wisdom teeth pulled, and I'm like, doc, it still hurts. Well, this explains why it still hurts. The hydrocodone doesn't work. Oxycodone does. Try going into an emergency room and telling them you need oxycodone, not hydrocodone. They instantly look at you like you're a drug addict. Now, I don't blame them for this. Who I blame is idiot Americans. So idiot Americans that got been hooked on painkillers, that can't handle their own business, now have ruined it for me who needs some relief. So I'm there. They do an x-ray of me. Now, I know I have back problems. I already had an x-ray at the urgent care, comes up clean. So I go to the emergency room. They do an x-ray and a CT scan. So the CT scan, I said, I need a soft tissue scan. I need an MRI. We can't do that here. We got to schedule that in advance. But that's what I need. I'm not a doctor, but I know I need an MRI. Nope. They do a CT scan. So needless to say, they've now billed my insurance for an x-ray. They've billed my insurance for a CT scan. Shows I'm clear, which I knew I already was. I'm out of pocket now. The $200 for the urgent care. I'm out of pocket. $350 for the emergency room visit. And they refuse to prescribe me any pain medication. So I get home, I'm still dealing with the same thing. I go to the chiropractor, spend another $200 there to try to get some relief. No. Why do I go to a chiropractor? Because I can't get in to see a specialist. Now, if I want to go see an orthopedist, a spine surgeon, a neurosurgeon, someone's going to work with nerves, they're 4 weeks at best out, and I have real pain now. This is a problem. So I'm left going to the emergency room unless I'm connected to someone at the top. And I wasn't willing to make those phone calls and call in a favor. Now, I probably could have tracked down someone to call a favor in, but I wasn't going to do it. So now I'm after all this. I still don't have any answers. I go to the chiropractor because I know he can order an MRI and I can get into a chiropractor quickly, which he did. I went and got my MRI. I had to pay $400 for that. So now you can see this adding up. A week into this process, my pain has not gone away whatsoever. And I've spent almost $1,500 and I have nothing to show for it. Nothing. Other than that, doctors won't prescribe me pain medication when I actually need it. And I can't get in to see a doctor that I actually need. Do you see how screwed up this system is? And people wonder, why we spend so much money on healthcare. We forced my insurance company to chalk up some money for a CT scan, some money for an x-ray. I didn't need it. I should have gone straight to the MRI right away and would have saved everybody some money, saved everybody some time. I don't know what the answer is about getting in to see doctors sooner, but I can tell you this. There's no competition in medicine anymore. There's not. If you had a doctor competing for your business, they'd actually kill it. Where you don't wait in the waiting room for an hour and a half before seeing the doctor. When your appointment's at 1, you should get in at 1, not 2:30. Try going to a real fancy orthopedist. That's what'll happen. You'll go in an hour later, if you're lucky, from when your appointment time is. We are screwed up. We've got to have competition back in healthcare. We don't have it. And so everybody suffers because of this. They really do. And so one of the things that I've tried to do because of this, and I don't want to get into the position where I'm totally suffering, and I want to make sure I take care of my body, because I really believe the best way to limit the amount of drugs going into your body is take care of your body. And that's what I've been doing. I mean, you look at this, except for my back pain, I'm in pretty good shape for 55 years old. So I'm 55. I chalk up much of it to my friends over at Energized Health. EnergizedHealth.com/Grant is where I want you to go. This is a total mind, body, soul program. It's about intercellular hydration using this patent pending science to figure out how to hydrate your cells. Anybody can chug water. You mostly pee it out. But when you chug water and it stays and hydrates your cells, that's when you're hydrated at a cellular level. This is when the magic happens, folks. That's what Energized Health is all about. I have more energy. I've lost body fat, 15 pounds, by the way, and I don't need to lose any more. That's about what I needed to lose. I've gained muscle mass, all right? Visceral fat inside is now less. And, of course, I'm getting hydrated at a cellular level. So, hence, my energy is up. My mental acuity is up. My skin is looking good. It's been the best freaking program going. EnergizedHealth.com/Grant. I urge you to pay them a visit. You are not going to regret it, especially now coming in to the holidays. All right, folks, I want to talk a little bit about why I think gold will still be a good investment even during the Trump years. And, of course, if you're going to buy gold, you got to go to our friends over at Colonial Metals. You can see the QR code right on your screen, freegoldguide.com, freegoldguide.com. A lot of people are asking me, hey, Trump's going to bring stability. You talk about chaos. Trump's going to cut government spending. You say that, that's not great for gold. But here's the thing. Gold went up during the Trump years, and I expect gold to continue to go up because they can't get done tremendous things that would need to happen, like get to a balanced budget. I wish they could. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. And I don't think we're going to be able to stop China and all these other countries that are waging war on the U.S. dollar, which is why I still think gold makes a great investment. So with that, freegoldguide.com, freegoldguide.com/Grant. Go get your free gold guide. Learn about Colonial Metals and what they do. But I want to bring in the main man over at Colonial Metals. I'm talking about Paul Stone. Paul, welcome to the program.
Great to be back, Grant. Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
Good to see you. Thanks to you and your support of this program. And I want to ask you right off the bat, I'm going to ask you a tough question. And it's not often that I ask sponsors tough questions, right? I want to throw softballs at you. But President Trump, everybody asked me, Grant, why should I be investing in gold? He would not be a great president for gold. And I said, no, that's not the case. Why? Tell me why.
Yep. And I love the tough questions. Bring all of them. That adds credibility to how I'm trying to be helpful. I can't be stumped. Mm-hmm. Cannot be stumped. I've thought this through. And so, yes, when we're sitting here in the last, 4 months with Kamala and Trump in their contest, and you're wondering, goodness, if Kamala wins, the case will be so obvious that people better get cracking and protect their savings if that's something they've been wanting to do for a while. If Trump wins, do I need to go find something else to do? So if the minute that a magical solution can be put upon our dying dollar, our ever-increasing debt, government ineptitude, this black hole that formed in our economy when the baby boomers retired in 97, which that black hole is not going away, it's only getting larger. If there was a magic that could make all of those financial issues, that erosion stop and heal, I would be the first one to say precious metals is no longer relevant in size in a way where you would think of it as wealth preservation, where you would think about risk and into something real, like, physical gold and silver. It's real. The dinner you ate last night was physical too, and the car you drive is real, and the gas you pump is real. So our money's not real. So if that was possible, I would be on to doing something else for a career. I absolutely would. I'm not someone who has to represent something, even if it becomes irrelevant, just because that's what I've been doing for a while.
All right.
Why would we still need precious metals during a Trump presidency?
Tell me about spending, because though I'm a huge fan of Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, and I think they'll do great things to cut the budget. But here's the reality. At best, they cut the increase in spending. We're not going to decrease our spending. They'll cut maybe the rate of how much we spend, but they're not going to cut spending. What does this mean with all our entitlement programs? And you need congressional approval for a lot of this stuff too, right, Paul?
Right. Let's take the example of most of our listeners probably remember some base closing actions back when Bush was president, Obama was president, right? So at the government level in D.C., you can get out a sheet of paper and here's all your bases and we'll just cut these and these and these and these. Now, where are those bases located? In someone's county, in someone's state. So who does that bother, right? The representatives that were elected to defend economic activity in that state, the senators, the representatives, are going to say, no, you can't cut the base in my state. And that's where, in a way, the formulation of our government works against the citizenry, because those politicians want to constantly get reelected, right? If we did have term limits, then this would absolve us of these lifelong career politicians who, to get reelected in their mind, can't tell us the truth and they can't face facts. They have to obscure the facts. They have to kick the can down the road. They have to make it look like they're superhuman. And therefore, we continue to reelect them. And that's what their career ends up being, as an elected official. So when we look at government cuts, a big piece of that, giant piece, 70% of the spending for the year by the government, which is constantly increasing because the costs increase, is Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. So if you say, well, we're just going to cut Social Security, maybe these older folks could, work a phone job from home for a few hours a day and contribute into the economy. We don't really want to ask the 80-year-olds and 70-year-olds to do that, but we're going to be cutting their benefits because we're killing the dollar as we pay for them to not be eating Alpo on a sidewalk. Mm-hmm. So we're going to cut. So get ready. The hysteria would be insane, right? Immediately, the Democrats would be elected during the midterms, and Trump would just be a lame duck president with no ability to conduct anything into law, because the states would say, but we need that money. Now you're waking up to the truth. Must have the money. And why is it increasing? Those two things aren't going away. So regardless of who is on the bridge of the Titanic, you're still taking on more water than you can pump out. It's always about resources. The resource of buoyancy was lost on the Titanic. The resource of enough money to pay our country's bills is what's killing the dollar. That resource of the dollar itself is almost dead. It's only worth 3 cents. So the money printing continues. There can be a lot of action and a lot of sizzle. And God bless Trump for winning. And God bless people who maybe not have voted before for him or didn't vote at all, got out of their, off their butt and voted and sending him to the White House. It'll be a better deal. But math is its own language. And if you don't address it directly, then it doesn't change.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. Look, the only way to really solve our financial crisis is to figure out a way to deal with entitlements like Social Security. It's not happening. President Trump said he's not going to do that. I don't think the politicians have the stones to actually do it. So that's the main thing. Now, can you tell me, because we talk about it all the time, when you have high government spending, our interest now exceeded the Department of Defense budget, right, that we pay on our debt.
Right.
Why does gold make a good investment when we have situations like that unfolding? Why gold?
So gold is not in the dollar. It works. It's described as having an almost perfect negative correlation to the dollar, meaning if the dollar goes down, then gold goes up, the same in real time. And there's two versions of measuring the dollar's utilization and whether it has a value or not. There's a dollar index, which measures the strength. And I'm not a financial advisor or a trained economist, so I'm just sharing with what I've read and studied, what makes sense to me. All I want to do is help you come up with questions. What I say should help the listeners, yourself, Grant. Just come up with the questions, right, and go seeking for the answers. The questions always mean more than the answers. Good seeking leads to good stuff. So when we look at the dollar index, that's the strength of the dollar compared to other currencies. And when we look at the dollar's buying power, that's what causes inflation. As if your buying power of your dollar is dropping, it's because commodity prices are rising. And so when the dollar's worth 56 cents in the year 2000, it had still a very good buying power capability. Today, that dollar's only worth 3 cents. It's losing 2 cents a year. So please trace that out in your minds. Eventually, there's a hard stop. This isn't Bugs Bunny in a runaway 747, and right before he hits the ground, he finds that there's a lever called the air brake. Mm-hmm. There's no air brake. You print, you pay. The costs go up, you print more, you pay.
All right. So
I talked to an incredible economist a few weekends ago, and he explained that eventually the angle of debt creation turns into a wall. Mm-hmm. Essentially, the government is forced to create about $2.5 trillion a year out of thin air. Eventually, it'll be $2.5 trillion every 6 months. Eventually, it'll be $2.5 trillion every 3 months. Eventually, it'll be $2.5 trillion a month. That's where you're climbing a wall. And these are dynamics that exist in math and physics, the physics of math and money. And there's no human being that can will that to stop. Math only hears math. It doesn't hear the podium.
So even Elon and Vivek are not going to be able to turn that giant thing around. They may be able to chip away at it, but they're not going to be able to turn it around.
And here's the significance of this again. So they say we could cut $2 trillion. That's about 30% from a $7 trillion spend for the year. If you just think of how we operate down here at ground level, we get a very high concentration of oxygen down here on the surface, right? We know when we climb Mount Everest, there's not a lot of air. You're actually dying as you climb Mount Everest. So we know when they pressurize the plane, it's at 10,000 feet. Why? Because there wouldn't be enough oxygen in the plane to keep us awake or the pilots alive. And as they climbed, everyone would be dead. So taking 30% out of our financial system, out of the budget, would be the same as moving society, our economy, to functioning at an altitude of 16,500 feet. It's literally the lifeblood. The printing of money is literally why we still have money. It's why the electricity works today.
Let me ask you
the minute that stops, and it needs to stop, but the minute that stops or you start drastically cutting, there will be pain, other pain.
Yeah.
Eventually, there's just a giant explosion when the dollar resource is completely exhausted and a coffee is $40. And then there's no point to going to work because you can't get paid enough to buy groceries. So as soon as the diesel truck drivers quit driving their trucks, society stops.
Yeah, I mean, this would be horrible. And this is why we talk about gold the way we do. And that I love the fact that it is physical. I love the fact that I have it in my safe. I love the fact that if anything, all hell breaks loose, I literally have a tangible asset that I could literally trade where the dollar's value is zero. Nobody's going to give a shit about, excuse my language, about a green piece of paper. But they will about gold. Last question for you. This is still a tough one. inflation should come down under President Trump. We should cut the rate of inflation. Now, again, I want everyone to remember, cutting the rate of inflation is not cutting the cost of goods and services. It's only cutting the rate at which they are growing in price, which is a very big distinction between bringing prices down. It's only slowing how fast they go up. Though I do assume that inflation will come down under President Trump. Your response to that?
So the number one ingredient to pretty much everything, because everything ships and a lot of stuff is made by, the physical exertion of a combustion engine, diesel. So if you bring the oil down, if you drill, baby, drill, then you bring oil prices down, then yes, that would be a main contributor to lowering how fast food and agriculture, petroleum related products increase. The main parts to this Federal Reserve's inflation number are missing. They do not consider agriculture or energy-related products. They don't consider healthcare. They don't consider shelter. You need a new hot water heater? That's not in the inflation number, right? So just think how ridiculous that is. Go to shadowstats.com if you want to look up the old-fashioned way of counting unemployment and inflation. Inflation is around 12%. And that's what it feels like out where you and I live, at the grocery store and the gas station and around town. Feels like it's kind of painful. Yeah. And the worst it got during Carter was 18%. Whoa, 3/4 of the way to Carter?
Yeah.
In real world, yeah. Not in the fake podium reporting world. No, they're lying. 2%, 2.5% inflation is a number the Federal Reserve is gearing toward as an economic number, but it has nothing to do with the CPI, really, as it used to be, as the equation used to work.
Well,
so you can slow down. Yes, you're right. The cost increasing, but it still stays highly expensive. Homes are still going to be, an average house today is $440,000. 50 years ago, it was $20,000.
Mm-hmm.
That's inflation. That's the killing of your dollar, causing assets and commodity prices to go higher. What commodities are not in a house? So we think of it as an asset, and we think, I'm flipping homes. I'm making $1 million a year flipping homes. The reason these prices are going higher is banks can lend 10 times the amount of money they're sitting on. So there's 10, just think of 10 extra armies chasing after limited real estate. Mm-hmm. That was introduced when Clinton was president. And then the printing of money to keep the economy functioning causes commodity prices to go up. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of commodities in a house. So, you can't bring it back. This genie can't go back in a bottle. There has to be a giant bankruptcy at one point. The government would shrink like crazy. Government payroll, you look at 2 million employees in the federal government. Walmart has 1.6 million. They create $580 billion in revenue a year. The government sucks through and kills $7 trillion a year. So
unbelievable.
Can we just understand that we would never really want to buy a product that came out of the government? If there were a sports franchise, they would never win a game.
No, they don't win.
So when you're
anything,
in the dollar,
really.
You're in the government's financial world. When you're in gold and silver, you've left that world.
I ask people all the time, name me one thing government does well, and people will often say defense, and I say just go to the Pentagon and look at their budget and see the amount of waste, and I would offer up they don't even really do that very well. Yes, we're the greatest military on the face of the earth, we're the greatest fighting force, and I'm proud of that, but we don't do it in an efficient manner, that's for sure. Government doesn't do anything in an efficient manner. What I love, Paul, is that you come on and answer these questions. I think it's so important for our listeners, viewers, to hear this play out as they consider gold as a place to put some money, as a portfolio protection maneuver is what I call it. And I'm just grateful for the support of Colonial Metals, and I'm grateful you come on and answer questions honestly and spell it out for folks.
Yeah, and I get to talk to some brilliant minds. I get to talk to Larry Kudlow. He invited me down to Mar-a-Lago for the celebration last Thursday for AFPI celebrating. Trump was there. J.D. Vance was there, Vivek was there, Elon was there, a lot of great. Stallone was there. Stallone introduced Trump as George Washington's second coming. I said, Mr. President, when I got to talk to him, you're more like Braveheart. You've been roaming the countryside. The enemy's already here. Washington fought a visiting army and navy. This enemy that Trump is fighting is already embedded in the soil of our lands.
It's a great point.
The idea of Washington, big government, all the money they spend, all the connections they have.
Yeah.
He's got to fight something very, very difficult. And he said, I feel like Braveheart.
Well, he is like Braveheart. I mean, we know how hard the deep state is to fight back. Real quick before I let you go, any incentives? You got any deals going for people when they're buying gold now with Colonial Metals?
Oh, of course. We pre-invest in precious metals, so we're capable of giving away silver on the house as a ratio to what the dollar amount is that you move over to, that you're protecting of your own money. And this gold and silver ships to you, or it ships into your account that's titled in your name. You own this physical property. This is like financial real estate in a drawer. And we would give away, as usual, there's 3 different sizes of free safes, depending on how much you would want in gold and silver at your home. If you do, go this alone, go this somewhere else, and you do have gold and silver at the home, I always suggest you have 2 safes, the throwaway safe. So if bad guys come and they're threatening, they need to leave with something. Mm-hmm. Tell them where the throwaway safe is. Don't tell them it's your throwaway safe. Just say, well, I don't know what you heard. I have a little bit of gold and silver. It's in a safe over in the den. Great. They run out the door with that, the real safe with all your gold and silvers, bolted to the closet floor under a heap of clothes.
It's great advice, really. That's the kind of stuff we love. Paul Stone, great work over Colonial Metals. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having us. God bless you. God bless America.
Absolutely, brother.
Ask good questions.
Yeah, man. Thank you. I appreciate that. And folks, let me remind you, here's the QR code. Get in touch with these guys. As you can see, I know them. I trust them. They've helped so many people on Rumble here and my program. And these are good guys. So if you're thinking about it, investing in precious metals, putting some money in gold, do that with Colonial Metals. How much is right for you? Talk to them about it. Talk to your loved ones about it. Talk to your accountant about it. But I do believe this is a great way to protect your portfolio. It stood the test of time. We say it all the time, and we say it all the time because it's a fact. So again, Colonial Metals Group, freegoldguide.com/grant, freegoldguide.com/grant, or you can call them at the number on your screen, 800-458-7356, 458-7356. That's 800-458-7356 and colonialmetalsgroup.com. All right, folks, I want to turn now from talking about not just the election and how great it is that President Trump won, but I want to talk about Democrats who realize that there was a mandate issued by the American public. That mandate was they want disruptors in Washington, not just President Trump, but they want President Trump to put disruptors around him that are going to go into every agency, root out the corruption, root out the overregulation, root out the tyranny, and say, you know what, we're going to set the American people free, and we're going to try and work towards a government by and for the people. Overwhelmingly, this is what the American people want, and so many Democrats didn't realize it. They didn't realize it that, the CDC masking toddlers during COVID was a really bad idea. And people said, you know what? I don't think they know what they're talking about. They didn't realize that this idea of open borders and flooding suburbs with illegal aliens and trying to transform America into one giant inner city, that the people would push back against that. Well, they did push back against that. And that's a good thing. So I see people like Charles Barkley has issued warnings about this. You have Bill Maher. Bill Maher has been one of the strongest voices, I say, for conservatism, not because he pushes conservative values. He doesn't. This guy's a hardcore liberal. But he's been a strong voice for us because he's called out members of his own team. He shows us how wrong they were. Now, RFK Jr. is getting heat for everything, for his anti-vax stance, specifically COVID vax, but maybe more is anti-vax for the amount of vaccines that are going into people. But he's also getting heat just because he's a radical guy and wants to upend the deep state that has taken over Health and Human Services, that is in bed with Big Pharma from the Food and Drug Administration's perspective, and that the people's interest is not being taken to heart. So you have Bill Maher, who realizes that this is a problem. He's a Democrat, but he realizes it. So he brings on doctors like this Dr. Meese, I believe her name is, and they have an interesting conversation. I want you to watch this.
People kind of look at you like you're crazy because I think they just are in this world of doctors know everything. And I think you're telling us in medical school you learn doctors don't. I always say, if they know everything, why do you always have to get a second opinion?
Well, if they knew everything.
You're saying it's an opinion. And by the way, the second one never matches the first one. They're always guessing. I'm not saying they're corrupt, although there is some of that.
If they knew everything, then why would we be spending $4.5 trillion per year on healthcare costs and life expectancy is going down in the United States? Why are 80% of healthcare costs going towards chronic illnesses that are rooted in diet and lifestyle, yet at the vast majority of American medical schools, doctors in training are not taking a single nutrition course?
Is that not crazy? God gives us one body, you better take care of it. They talk about wanting the price of insulin to go down. Why not try to work on getting people using insulin, the number of people using insulin to go down? Why not say, you know what, let's get away from sugars and let's get away from horrible things in our food. RFK Jr. is talking about all this stuff. So you wonder why we spend those trillions of dollars on healthcare every year. Maybe they want us to. Maybe it's about the money. Maybe it's about these drugs that don't totally work. Maybe it is that they have a cure for cancer, but they don't want to cure it because, well, the jig would be up then, because think of the trillions of dollars that are spent on cancer treatments. I believe this is how nefarious Big Pharma is, the healthcare industry is. They're all in bed. And what if the food manufacturers were also working with Big Pharma, that the food manufacturers are literally adding poisons to your food? So then it causes you to go use the healthcare system and everybody's getting rich off this. My ultimate assessment is, and I've said this before, is that I think the food manufacturers are putting that garbage in your food because it's cheap, it makes it last long, and it's an easy way out. Whether it hurts the American people, they don't really care. They just want it cheap and easy. Now, if it ends up sending people into the hospital over the long haul, maybe that's even better for them because now their friends over at Big Pharma get rich. We shouldn't be spending this much on healthcare. We should be taking care of our bodies and then ultimately not have to spend anything on healthcare. Here I am with a hurt back, and I'm telling you about the medical industry and how much it screwed me. But this is what I mean. I mean, I'm in good shape. Why can't I just get in to see a doctor for a basic treatment instead of having 2 scans that I don't need, and the one that I do takes me months to get? It's backwards.
And so you have to ask these questions. If we were crushing it, we would not be spending 2x every other country in the entire world and have the lowest life expectancy of any developed country in the entire world. We are the sickest of the top 11 high-income countries in the world. We have the highest infant and maternal mortality rates, and our life expectancy is 10 years less than our friends in Japan and Switzerland. Right now, according to the Journal of American Medical Association, the average American man in America, age 73 is their life expectancy. It is
73? I'm 55. I'm not ready to go yet. That means I got less than 20 years? No. I can promise you, just because I've gone to my high school reunions, well, I haven't gone, but I've seen the pictures. I'm in some of the best shape. I got another buddy. You know what? I'm going to give him a shout out. His name's Luke Daigle. I got another one named Jeff Nolan. And even my buddy Tom Giavoni are all in pretty good shape. These people are in very, very good shape. By high school, should I just start naming high school people that are in great shape? Carla Tafredi is another one that is in great shape. Liz Maitland, another one in great shape. Beyond that, there's nobody left. It's crazy. My friends look like old men, fat, bald, on oxygen, like at 55 years old. It's the most horrible thing ever. But the people I named, congratulations, because you actually don't look your age and you're taking care of yourselves. It can be done. This is the point. But nobody wants to do it. So now we got a life expectancy of 73 years old for men. Believe me, I could go back to my high school reunion and point out exactly the ones that are going to live till 73 because they look like old men at 55. I hope I don't look like an old man. I mean, really, I can't deal. I have so much stuff going. Heck, I'm doing everything I can do to stay young. Please, please, please.
83 in Japan and Switzerland. This is something we should all be outraged about. And only one party in our election cycle this year was talking about chronic illness. The words chronic illness, as far as I know, never came out of the Harris campaign's mouth. And I think that was a misstep.
So think about it. The reason we're talking about it in our party is because we had a Democrat defector come over and get us talking about it, and we were all willing to listen. Not only were we willing to listen, but we literally embraced it. And of course, I'm talking about RFK Jr. So this is fabulous in my mind that we're talking about this kind of stuff. It's necessary because you gotta remain healthy. Now, there's something another side of this. What about despair? What does that play on the American life expectancy? So Howard Lutnick, who just was named Commerce Secretary, he talks about this in a podcast I saw where he says the top third of people in America financially live 6 years longer than the bottom 2/3. His assessment is it's not necessarily the food or the healthcare system, but it's despair. That we don't have hope in America if you're struggling to make your paycheck every week, not knowing if you're going to have a job, trying to figure out what your next move is, how are you going to pay the mortgage payment, all of that stress and despair in a country that has been turned upside down by the Biden administration takes years off your life. So now we bring joy back, we bring prosperity back, we bring certainty back, then add that to talking about nutrition and health. We could get to the level of Japan where men are living to 83 years old. That can't be that hard. I better live past 83, I'm thinking to myself.
Because Americans are, I think, tired of being gaslit about the fact that there's not a problem right now. And when we look around us and we know there is, and Trump has asked RFK to do 3 simple things. He's asked to get the corruption out of the U.S. health agencies, produce uncompromised evidence-based research for our health guidelines, and reverse the trends of the chronic disease epidemic in 2 years for children and adults so that we can show up for our 250th anniversary of America stronger than ever. That sounds pretty good to me.
I love it. I love it. And I'm not even thinking she's a Republican. I don't know what she is. Truth is, I don't care. I like what she has to say here. Just like I like what RFK Jr. has had to say. But Bill Maher has the guts to bring on somebody like this and talk about it. And they're getting applause in there. Not a huge applause, but they're at least getting applause when the Democrats, the left, are freaking out over RFK Jr. Freaking out over them. So it's just one issue President Trump is bringing to the forefront because he's embraced people like RFK Jr. and Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy and Tulsi Gabbard and so many others. It's greatness, really. Greatness. A lot of people say, oh, well, you can't be investing in Bitcoin if you're investing in gold, and the two are opposites. Not at all, especially when it comes to get21now.com. I believe in portfolio diversification. You got to be taking advantage of all the things that are making money. Bitcoin is clearly all the craze right now, but I don't like the wild swings, the ups and downs, the 90,000, 60,000, 50,000, 80,000. That stuff is crazy to me. Here's what I do like, though. Guaranteed rate of return, where I get 21% on my investment, annualized interest, and it's paid out monthly. This is what get21now.com can do for you. So I've invested with them. It's a company called NFN8. They have Bitcoin mining facilities, and the process is fabulous. I invest with them. They mine the Bitcoin, and literally I own the Bitcoin machine, all right? You got to talk about how this works, but it's brilliant. I stay away from capital gains. I stay away from, God, could you imagine unrealized gains? If we had to deal with that, this protects yourself from that too. But this is about mining the Bitcoin in industrial style warehouses where they buy the electricity very cheap and it's cheap and they sell it the next day. So you're not dealing with the wild swings, and they pay you up to 21% annualized interest paid monthly. Now, I've owned businesses. If I could get 21% on my money, I'm in all day long, which is why I invested with them. I have no headaches. They don't call me for anything. They don't do anything. The only thing I get is an email every month that says the money's been deposited into your account. They've lived up to their promises to me. Get21now.com. Pay them a visit. Fill out the form there. And if you get in touch with them, let them call you back, all right? Answer their phone call. A lot of people sign up and then don't answer the phone call. They're very busy. But they're busy for a reason, because people want in on this deal. It's a very special relationship I have with them. Get21now.com, get21now.com. 21% interest annualized on your money paid monthly. Mailbox money, baby. I love it. Get21now.com. Welcome back, everyone. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. In this post-woke era that we are entering, I would expect diversity, equity, and inclusion to go by the wayside, at least at a federal government level. I'm going to give you a little flashback here of Joe Biden, and then I'm going to prove to you that they followed his mandate. Listen.
To me, the values of diversity, equality, inclusion are literally, and that's not kidding, the core strengths of America. That's why I'm proud to have the most diverse administration in history. It taps into the full talents of our country and starts at the top with the vice president.
Well, he dispatched his agency heads to make diversity, equity, and inclusion a core piece of their agencies. Health and Human Services did not disappoint, okay? Listen to this, 294 DE staffers inside the Health and Human Services Agency, $385 million spent on all of this. It's absolutely crazy. In the budget report for Health and Human Services, they mentioned equity 829 times. Equity. Now, equity is equal outcomes for everyone. That means mediocrity for everybody. Equality, of course, means equal opportunity for everybody. Take a look at this breakdown of DEI employees by agency. Health and Human Services, 92 employees with a payroll of $12.9 million on your screen there. CDC, 43 DEI employees costing $5,492,000. FDA, 24 DEI employees costing almost $3 million. And the list goes on and on and on. How do we know all this? Well, I want to thank our friends over at Open the Books. They're the ones who uncovered all of this. Joining me now is investigative journalist from Open the Books, Jeremy Portnoy. Jeremy, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me, Grant.
Well, it's good to see you again, my friend. $38.5 million, 8 separate DEI agencies inside Health and Human Services. Break this down for me.
Yeah, so you just gave us the numbers, but I think what's really important to understand here is just how bureaucratic the structure has gotten, right? So you've got the overall Office of Diversity for the Health Department. That's about 100 employees. Then within that, each sub-agency has its own Office of Diversity. So the NIH, the FDA, the CDC, they have their own DEI employees, their own payroll. Then within that, each of those have their own accountants and outreach experts, marketing experts, and that's how we get to an expense that's now $40 million for DEI in the health agency.
Was it Joe Biden? He issued an executive order, did he not, to try to make DEI a priority?
Right. So a lot of this started when Biden took office. He asked the HHS to hire 300 DEI employees. He also asked them to change a lot of their offices of minority health, which has been around since the 1980s, into offices of health equity, which what they did now is that they've declared that racism is a public health threat and taken a lot of their resources off of actual scientific research and into advancing equity and diversity within the health workforce.
All right, so when we say these DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion employees, we're not talking about just a minority employee of HHS. These are people directed to push these kind of policies. Is that correct?
Right. That's where I feel it gets a bit alarming, right? This is the health agency. They should be focused on scientific research and protecting people, not political agendas from the left or the right. But like you already mentioned, their budget request for next year has the word equity in it 829 times. So that includes initiatives like the NIH's FIRST program. They're actually paying universities to hire scientists from minority backgrounds and in job interviews instructing them to consider their commitment to diversity as equally important as their actual academic ability and scientific smarts. So that's where some of this political agenda comes into play.
I know some of the salaries are high. According to your numbers, 247 of these 294 DEI staffers inside HHS make over $100,000. 4 of them make over $200,000. Who was the highest paid of all of this?
So the very top is the director of the NIH's Office of Minority Health. She's making about $385,000 a year. That's one of the highest salaries we've ever seen in the federal government. I mean, the president himself makes $400,000, and like you said, almost every employee is making six figures. A good portion over $150,000.
You know, I can't help but think it used to be the Equal Employment Office, right? That would make sure that everybody had an equal opportunity to be hired, whether you're black or white, it shouldn't matter. Equal Employment Office was about fairness and equality in many respects. This DEI nonsense now, to me, this is totally unfair. And you're literally picking winners and losers when you hire based off of DEI policy. I'm going to take you because you're black. I'm going to take you because you're Hispanic. I'm going to take you because you're gay. And if you're a straight white male, you're on the street, I would assume.
Right. What they've done is kind of blur the lines between those two concepts, right? So now the office is, instead of the Office of EEO, it's the Office of Equal Employment Opportunity and Diversity and Inclusion. They got it all in the title. So now even people with job titles like EEO consultant, they're still employees of the Office of Diversity, and they're being asked to consider DEI ethos in their hiring decisions and how they're applying civil rights laws that have been in place for decades.
You know, it's interesting. I read through the whole study that you guys put out, and you can go to openthebooks.com and see it, folks. HHS trained 4,300 faith leaders to be vaccine advocates and influencers, 1,200 church vaccination sites. I imagine this was a money play. I guess these faith leader influencers were also getting paid to do this.
Yeah, I can't tell for sure about the money there because those are private payments, but there was a lot of money spent on pushing vaccines out, and it's continuing now. We've got $25 million in the budget next year to diversify the nursing workforce, $145 million for opioid response in rural communities, where they're having grant applicants write what they're calling disparate impact statements, making sure that they're going to consider systemic racism when they're helping victims of drug abuse and opioid victims. So it's really spread into pretty much every health agenda that you can think of.
It's unbelievable. I'll tell you what, Jeremy, I can't wait for Open the Book's next investigation. They're always amazing to see. Sad because you just see the money flying out the door for left-wing causes. Hopefully that all changes when President Trump comes into office. But we appreciate you, Jeremy. Thanks for coming on tonight.
No problem, Grant. I appreciate the support.
Do you really trust her to run this country for the next 4 years? How have the last 4 years gone under him? Well, your tax dollars are being funneled overseas and to support illegal immigration. They've left our people behind, offering just $750 in aid as if that's enough. With political insanity that we're living through, supply chain shortages, natural disasters, and the looming threat of another pandemic, you need to prepare your family now. The Wellness Company offers 5 critical medical kits packed with life-saving medications like ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, amoxicillin, Z-Pak, and more. Each kit is backed by Dr. Peter McCullough. Ordering is simple. Just a few clicks and it's delivered to your door. Head to twc.health/grant and use code GRANT to save up to $60 off plus free shipping. That's twc.health/grant and use code GRANT to save up to $60 off plus free shipping right now.
Well, folks, that's going to do it for us today. Thanks so much for watching. I can't believe we're in the Thanksgiving week. Do you know what you're thankful for? I know we're thankful for President Trump being elected. I know we're thankful that America's finally going to be headed in the right direction. But what else are you thankful for? Here's my homework for you. Sit down over the next few days before we get to Thanksgiving and really think about what you're thankful for. Yes, we're thankful for our families. Yes, we're thankful for the health of our families if we're blessed enough for that to be true. But what else? What are the things that you don't often think about that you're thankful for? Think about those things, all right? Because those sometimes are the forgotten things, the forgotten people. Maybe the forgotten people that we're thankful for are very important too. So think about that stuff as we move towards Thanksgiving and try to enjoy this week. Thanksgiving is always one of my favorite holidays, and I get to take a little vacation. But as you can see, we're not always on vacation, always working for you. Hey, GrantStinchfield.com is the website, GrantStinchfield.com, Stinchfield1776 on all the social media platforms. Go to the website, sign up for the email list. We do a daily email. It tells you about the podcast, what's on it, the links. That way you can share it with your friends really easily. That's about it. We don't sell the list to anybody. We don't do anything like that. You may get an email from one of our sponsors from time to time, but no big deal. It's good stuff. And I appreciate all of you. Stinchfield's Army Rolls. See you tomorrow.